Hello, everybody. We are here again, and as usually, we have some great speakers from around the world speaking on very important topics that can help you build your business, build your business and grow it globally. And here with me today, I have David Beckett. Hi, David. Good to have you here.
Hi, Daniel. I'm very happy to be here.
We are here to speak about pitching, and David agreed to have three podcasts with us on three different types of pitching. So it would help you dive into the different scenarios of pitching when you pitch to customers, when you pitch to on competition, and when you pitch to investors. Well, David is an international pitch coach who has trained over 1,500 startups to win over 360 million euros in investments. He also trained more than 25,000 professionals at companies such as Booking.com, Tommy Hilfiger, ING, PwC, Google in 29 countries. He also helped to prepare over 30 speakers at TED. And David is a creator of the Pitch Canvas, author of the books Pitch to Win and the Blue Moon Pitch, and a host of the Essential Pitch podcast. And once you finish watching our podcast, go on Google, find the Speech podcast and subscribe. David, did I miss anything? Please give some broader intro of yourself.
No, it's a glowing introduction. Thanks a lot.
All right. So now the first topic we have is how to pitch your customers.
Yes.
So please dive us into this topic and what is it pitching to customers comparing to any other topics?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of things about the stage that you're at where you're engaging with the customer. There's the early stage, perhaps that first contact. And then there's, okay, you've got that meeting, you're maybe in the first or second meeting, you're starting to get to know the customer. So these are different levels of pitches. So let's talk about the second one, the in-meeting one, because that's the thing that comes immediately to mind. And, you know, I think there's a lot of similarities in some ways to pitching to investors. I think customers also want to know, what's the problem that you solve? Do you understand the problems that we experience? And have you got a solution that is effective? So being able to explain clearly, simply what your solution is. And of course, wanting to know a track record. So investors want to know, have you got traction? Have you got take up with your product? But customers also want to know, have other people had experienced success with this product? So there's a lot of similarities, but there's some things which are very specific and different. You know, for example, I think, of course, things like investment, they're not interested in those kind of things, maybe more interested in pricing, but they're also interested in, I think, a bit of a different aspect of traction. You know, just because you've got, say, 1,000 users of a product or you've sold to a lot of customers, what they really want to know is, have you sold to customers like us? And what happened as a result of that? So I think that's one of the key things on customers' minds.
Right. So, all right, go ahead.
So I think when you're face to face with that customer and you want to pitch what you're good at, what your solution is. You know, what a lot of people do is they pitch, here's what we do. But I think the starting point needs to be more like, okay, companies like you, or the kind of problems that you're facing, or maybe even they've told you they're facing this kind of problem, facing that kind of problem. When we've worked with customers like you, what we've seen is they're experiencing this. So what we do is we do this, this, and this, which helps them achieve that. And when you follow that pattern, it really changes the game, because instead of just saying, here's what we do, here's what we do, here's what we do, you tune into their world. So you tell them, I understand what's going on in your world, the kind of challenges that you face, that you and your industry face. Here's where what we do helps to solve problems. And here's an example of how it worked for a customer. So that I'm not a big fan of the word storytelling in some ways in business, because it can be a bit overused. But this is a very simple way of storytelling. Here's a customer, they had a problem, we came with this solution, here's the result, here's how they overcame their problems. And that sort of storytelling works really well for customers, I think.
Yeah, and I would call it maybe, I support that, and I would call it maybe use cases. Sometimes companies even prepare a specific report as a story of the business case they had with the customer, and it works because it's a real result. There is like an entry situation as an entry point, a point A and a point B, where they ended with a good result. And this is the story.
Yeah, it's always about transformation. You know, any story. I think sometimes people get a bit overwhelmed by the concept of storytelling. We think we need to be in a sort of once upon a time kind of mode, and actually, a story is basically about a transformation, about something that used to be like this. Then, as a result of this, it then became that. And when you can show that we've helped customers make that transformation, that change from, you know, it's not going well to it's going well, that really works. It was interesting today. I had a question from one of my clients. She was asking, you know, I want to introduce myself in a short pitch to a customer. And you say we should talk about a couple of areas that we work in. I recommend to people to say, you know, these are the kind of customers we work with, and pick out one or two customer groups. But she said, we work in consultancy and we work in lots of different areas and lots of different industries. But the thing is, if, say, you are an OEM manufacturer in the automotive industry, the fact that you have maybe worked in the health industry doesn't really mean anything to them. It's not relevant to them. You might have a lot of experience in health and this kind of industry, IT and something else. But if you can demonstrate, you know, what we've seen in the OEM industry, and we've got some clients in the automotive industry, what we've seen is they're really struggling with such and such. And then what we've done to help them solve those problems is we bring this kind of skill or this kind of service or this kind of quality. And what that's done for other customers is this. Let me just give you an example so that you bring it in, so that you bring specific experience of that person's industry or the kind of area that they're in, rather than general stuff. So you get narrowed down on how your experience matches what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Well, every pitch comes with a preparation. And when I pitch to my customers, I always do it with a few steps beforehand. Like I go to some resources like LinkedIn, I go to Google just to find more information about them. So I would understand the customer profile to understand what they're expecting. So trying to win them. What would be your recommendation on the preparation before pitching to customers?
Sure. So my methodology of how you prepare for a pitch always starts with audience and objective. So who is it that you're pitching to? What do they care about? And then what's the objective, or what do we want these people to do as a result of the pitch? And I think exactly what you described is to go and find out, you know, check their profile, but not just check their profile. See what are they posting? What do they like? What are they putting their name to? Because every time somebody clicks like, or every time somebody posts something, what they're actually doing is telling something about them as people, as professionals. In terms of LinkedIn, it's always about them as professionals. So you can find out quite a bit by something as simple as LinkedIn. Maybe that person has got a blog. Maybe it's current, maybe it's past blog. That would show that something about their interests. You know, and if they've got, say, a blog that they're writing, it's a great way to enter. You know, you say, hey, I saw this post that you wrote about such and such. I found it really interesting because it reminded me of, so, you know, you're immediately into a connection with the person. So you can find out quite a bit. And sometimes people say, yeah, but, you know, I've done that and I still don't know anything about them. But I personally think the first step is just that process, the mindset. I want to get into that person's world, find out what's happening for them, what they're focused on, what they're dealing with. And once you do that, even if you only find a little bit of information on LinkedIn, online, that little piece of information could be enough for you to make a connection. And if you really come to a blank, at least you've spent time going into their world, thinking about them. You know, what most people do when they prepare a pitch is they, you know, if you're preparing a presentation, we'll just open up the slides, start typing in PowerPoint. And my advice is always put the software aside, take some time to get into the customer's world and find out what's happening for him or her in that world. What's really their biggest challenges? What are their interests? So I think LinkedIn's a great resource, but just in general, Googling people, checking out what's happening in their lives and their professional lives is all good.
Yeah, well, it reminded me the use case I had. I was going after high profile, top management of large companies, for Fortune 100 companies, and I was cold contacting them, and I found one guy. I found his blog actually, and went through this. I saw that he's very into the topic of his industry, and he even shared some book, and so I read quickly that book, and so I really felt this kind of what he likes, and I just sent him a line or two, and he responded, and we connected, and then we had some further iterations and results. So this is how it worked for me. Yeah, I totally agree with the algorithm of steps you're suggesting, and it just worked for me as well.
Yeah, just seeing what they like, and if you find interest in that, and A, it's good to get connected to that, and B, if you find there's a genuine connection between your interest and their interest, that's even better. You're starting to think along with them. So I think that helps a lot. The other thing I do is just go to YouTube and check if there's anything. And sometimes you just find one interview or one video, and you just get a picture of that person in a bit of a different way. A picture is one thing, but if you get a video, you get to hear their voice, you get to tune a little bit into how they communicate. Are they more measured? Do they take their time? Are they very snappy? They're in a hurry? What kind of character are they? And that can help you just get that bit of, okay, I'm gonna try and tune into how that person likes to communicate. That could give you a little head start in advance of the meeting.
Yeah. Before I go to the next question, I also just got another scenario. What I had is that when I bring the customers after a call, contacting them through internet, whatever other cold resources, I never try to actually sell them anything. I just want to learn about them, and as much as I can, because I truly want to help. I want to have this natural match between our business and their business. And the first goal I have is to actually get their confirmation for the next call. And I will get prepared for the next call, offering them a solution to their problem.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think of it, is that you're not there to broadcast what you do. You're there to communicate what you do, but find out how that matches. And I think that also takes me to, when you have that meeting, and especially in these times we're scheduling online meetings, got to be aware of how precious time is. And I think the planning of a meeting, I used to work for a big company. I worked for Canon for 16 years, actually. I left 9 years ago, so I've made a big transformation since then. So I made many, actually it's more than 9 years ago, I made many bullet point presentations. I was really in the corporate world. And if I had a half-hour meeting or a 1 hour meeting, I prepared 25 minutes of presentation and thought I'll have 5 minutes for Q&A, but then run out of time at the end. And I think the same thing goes now. If you have a 30-minute meeting, the temptation is to think, oh, great, I can talk for 25 minutes and then have 5 minutes Q&A. But my advice is really, unless they've very specifically asked you to fill the time with presentation, which is pretty rare actually, then to summarize the key issues and get down to maybe 1/3 of the time max, and sometimes even shorter, and then get into the conversation. So, we arranged this meeting because you wanted to find out about such and such. So what's on your mind? What would you like to know more about? Or what's happening for you right now? And I think the more you get away from the broadcast point and get into the interact part, the better it is. So if you have a 30-minute meeting, I think it's always good to assume, okay, there'll be 1 or 2 minutes for tech stuff, people to arrive, for the Teams or Zoom not to work or whatever it is, then maximum 10 minutes of pitch or presentation. And then get into, so what's on your mind? How does this match with what you're interested in? What are your biggest challenges right now? And asking those questions, because I think most people, they want to hear what the solutions are, but they want to know how does it help me?
Yeah.
When I worked in Canon, we had many suppliers come to visit, and many of those suppliers were sort of advertising, creative type companies. And mostly they would give you the first 20 minutes telling you how great they were. And I would find myself sitting there like, yeah, okay, you're great. I guess you probably are. But how do you help me? How are you going to make me more efficient or get more sales? Or because in the end, I'm busy and I don't want to spend time on this. And I think that was, many, many years ago. The time pressure is double, triple what it was in my day.
Yeah, considering everything is remote now, and we actually stopped working 8 hours. Now we're working 12 hours just because we can do it from home.
and back-to-back meetings. If it runs out of time at 29 minutes, people will say, "Hey, sorry to interrupt you, but I've got to go to my next meeting. Thanks very much. Bye," and then they're gone. And of course, it's more difficult to do that face to face. I think anyway, respecting people's time face to face is smart, but online, it's so easy for people to just leave. So we've got to constantly keep that eye on time, constantly try and tune in to what's happening in their world, finding out what their problems are, and avoid that this is what we do pitch, get into their world, share what we do and how that helps them reach their goals, what's in it for them.
All right, so I think we touched the main algorithm and steps, so how to pitch to customers. What would be your summary as a final outcome you want the audience to be left with before we let them jump to the next video?
Yeah, I think firstly, respecting the time, that's the last point we just made, but I think that's really crucial in these days. So try and structure for good timing for their meeting. Do the research. YouTube, LinkedIn are two great resources for this. So you tune into their mind, and a bit less of this is what we do and more, we understand the problems in your industry, problems you're facing. Here's what we do to help you reach your goals. And this combination can help a lot.
That was David Beckett about pitching to customers. So guys, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave your comments if you agree, disagree, or you have your own scenarios of how to pitch to customers. And if you want to learn how to pitch on competitions or how to pitch to investors, move to the next videos we will have shortly. Thank you so much, David, and I'll see you in the next podcast.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Me too.